I've been sharing or probably telling you that there's this article which I read, which was from Israel, and how they are actually trying to educate their children. So it goes back to when the mother is pregnant, and then eventually when the kid lands in the school for the next 2 or 3 years, they actually kind of focus on whether what kind of tools the kid is going to look for, or he's most interested in playing with. And then eventually what they do is that they focus more on the kind of habits he or she has developed. And then eventually when they land in the university, they are actually supposed to generate $1 million out of their own business to actually get the degree as well. So talking about education, we all know that the kind of education over in Pakistan is debatable. We really need to work on the curriculums and the syllabi as well. But why are we only reading definitions? Why are we only reading books? Well, where are the skill sets? How are we highlighting the importance of that skill set or that particular skill which is required in 2020?
Just a small fact though, just yesterday one of an education, so sorry, I don't know what's happening to me, shared a status on her Facebook saying that around 71% of the people who are educated in Pakistan did never read a book out of their syllabus. Imagine, I mean, that is really...
Thank God I'm not in that 71%.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's really restricting, Shahzad. Imagine being able to read and write, being educated, but never having to, choose a book to read for your own knowledge. I mean, it's really, really sad.
Exactly, it is. And to talk about this, ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by an educationist who's working day in, day out to make sure that, she's going to bring in that change, and that whatever she's going to teach to her students is actually going to be beneficial in their practical life as well.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, she happens to be Miss Sadia Qureshi as well. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Walaikum assalam.
How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. Wonderful to have you.
I'm humbled.
We have seen a lot of people who claim to be educationists, and with due respect, they are educationists, but I don't think that they were able to bring about that change within the education system. What is that one thing which is lacking in our education system? Why are there 71% people who have never ever read a book out of their syllabus?
See, the main important part here is to understand why we are all coming into this field. Now, this is actually coming out of passion. Before I go deeper into this, now you've asked a question which has so many answers, and I can go on and on and on talking about what are the lacks. However, the most important part here, which I would like to start off with, is that today is a very sad day in the history of our country, because we lost a legend, a visionary, an inspiration. So if I talk about what Qaid has been saying during his speeches, he talked a lot about vocational training. He spoke about a lot of skills that are required. He spoke about how important it is for individuals, for the men, the countrymen, to be equipped with competency to face the challenges of the modern era.
He even talked about students being out of politics.
Absolutely.
Or staying out of politics.
So basically, coming from that, keeping that in mind, and also the way he highlighted how education is used as the economic driver. So education and training is extremely important and needs to be kept in mind when we talk about economic development of a country.
Right.
So taking on from here, skills is something that really, really lacks.
All right, I'm sorry that I'm going to stop you over here, and that you have a clear mind and that you actually want our viewers to understand what you try to tell them. But let us just be very honest over here. What kind of skills do we require in 2020? Let's be more focused.
Okay, so basically the communicative skills, communication, team building, critical thinking. What really happens is I have attended a lot of panel discussions, conferences, where the entrepreneurs are trying to say, oh, this is basically what's lacking in the higher education, the universities. And I, as an educator, fail to understand, unless and until we start working on the grassroots level, in the schools, we can never inculcate those skills into individuals. Now, by skills, it means the way they think. As a nation, we need to be able to produce thinkers, proactive contributors, instead of followers. So we're not really producing entrepreneurs. We're just producing followers, people who can just follow instead of thinking and coming up with their own ideologies.
All right. While yes, I may agree with a part of what you said in terms of, producing people who are just following. I think this may be a very generic term because, of course, we have met a lot of brilliant people in our show as well who are doing a lot for the country. So, yes, again, but I 100% agree with you where you said we have to start from the grassroots level. So now talk about your platform, which happens to be EMAS, is it?
Absolutely.
So that works for skill development. How is that platform making sure to start from the grassroots level?
All right. Now, when we talk about the grassroots level, here we are like EMAS, as I talked about, what Guy had also mentioned about developing skills and making sure that all professionals understand how they're contributing towards a society. Now, EMAS focuses on the language competency, language proficiency, and also the management skills and the communication skills of adults.
Okay.
So when I say adults, I'm talking about educators, academic leaders, principals, people who are associated to education, and also the corporate sector, where my team and I, we aim at facilitating those individuals to enhance their own understanding of where they lack.
All right, what I'm missing out on over here is that, okay, people who are affiliated with the education sector, for example, principals, deans, vice chancellors, obviously they need to be
higher
up to date.
Education you're talking about.
Okay, even if higher education, that's where the deans or the head of the departments are. But what does it have to do with the corporate sector?
Okay, training and development.
Yeah.
Any place where there is teaching going on, it reflects back on the strategies that are used for instructional practices.
Okay.
Right? So that's how it is all connected.
I think what we're missing out on over here is that bridge in between the universities and the corporate sector.
Oh, yes.
So how do you think all the educationists are out there as well, how do you think that they can fill in this gap? Because eventually what happens is you're going to teach somebody a skill set, you're going to give them vocational training. What if they do not land onto a job where that particular skill set was necessary, or that kind of vocational training which you imparted on your behalf wasn't really necessary for the person to have?
You see, the important part here is to understand what exactly we're doing. Now, we, as I said, are equipping the individuals for their language competency, which basically means English language.
Yeah,
yes, please.
Just a small point to add to it. Is it only that you're doing?
So it is basically English language competency. We're offering IELTS support. We're also offering specific language development as far as writing skills are concerned. For the educators, we have brought in a lot of international programs, and we are partners with Notting Hill Training Institute in UK, which basically means that teachers here, educators here, can equip themselves professionally using those international qualifications. When I talk about the corporate, something very basic as corporate grooming.
Yeah.
The universities might teach them or ask them to give presentations.
Everything, yeah. They're like marketing
knowledge. Now here is the catch. Here is the catch. The schools and the teachers are not only required to provide theoretical knowledge and information that's coming from books.
Yeah.
If that was sufficient, the students here nowadays are already equipped.
Yeah.
So as teachers, obviously, because they're coming with a lot more exposure than they used to, right? So teachers are basically the facilitators who are adding onto the strategies that need to be used by the students. So what I mean to say is that all the techniques and tools are provided. And that's why peer discussion and talking is so important instead of only focusing on reading and writing.
Okay, so to my understanding, you are sort of focusing on and developing interpersonal and intrapersonal relationships as well, which is, yes, I do realize important. So for all of those people who don't understand, I'm going to try to paint a picture of what I understood as well from the kind of skill set that you're imparting as well. So while I know a lot of people, I think I've spoken about this before as well, I know some women, especially from my village back there as well, who, yes, are educated, but if they were to go out and earn or to make something of the education, they wouldn't know how to communicate about it. They wouldn't know where to find that online job, or if you even found the job, they don't know how to write a paper for it.
So that's what it is.
Get into the point.
That is what it is. Expressing your ideas is the most essential technique, and it is a skill. Here comes the skill, right? I am not saying that we need to offer workshops and we need to offer the certifications only. It's how we do it and how the individuals know when and what to use where.
And we're going to ask you that as well. And I think that it is very important, and I think that you've hit the nail on the head as well. And very sorry that we were actually a little hard on you just to get the information.
Not at all.
Not it's our job. We have to be fair.
Listen, the
it's
point
our
is,
job, and we really need to make sure that we're getting the right information out there as well. So
you've not been hard on me. I work with adults. I work with a lot of professionals, and I know exactly where it's coming from.
I think that's wonderful as well. But now what we want to know is that you, at the beginning of your conversation, said that we really need to have thinkers rather than people who are followers.
Absolutely.
Now, the kind of skill sets or the kind of trainings you are imparting really won't make anybody a thinker. How are you planning on that?
So basically, the point is, how do we produce thinkers? Thinkers are individuals who are giving their own reasons and understanding, their own logic for a certain situation.
Better than us. Yes.
Absolutely. I won't say really better than us. Now, when I said we're not producing thinkers, I didn't really mean, oh my God, we're not doing a good job. Yeah. That's not what I meant, and I think that's what you actually perceived.
Okay.
My only stance here is that individuals who can think and give their own logic behind a situation. So for example, if there's a case study that we're doing. Yeah. So for example, if I take a corporate session and I'm giving them a session about personal hygiene, because that's also important in corporate sector, right? In the corporate, a lot of people won't really know how to deal with each other. Okay. So conversation is also another problem. So maybe a scenario that is based on a reality where they don't know how to address people, where personal hygiene plays an important role. So basically devising a situation and putting them into groups and saying, okay, how do you think you're going to solve this? Instead of the facilitator, as I say, teachers are now the facilitators, giving all the information. It's basically, you know, give and take of information. So I feel as an instructor, now as an instructor, not only as a teacher in the educational sector, but also anywhere where there is instruction, where there is delivery of information or transfer of information and knowledge, we're moving apart not only by just giving, but also taking back.
And that's wonderful as well. One last thing before we wrap up, and I think that all of those things which you've mentioned are going to be very helpful for people. Only when people are able to realize that these are the skill sets which we need to ourselves as well. Who are the people now who really need to go through these trainings?
Yes,
I would say, okay, now here comes the point. Training is a word that I feel should not really be used. It's more of development.
Okay.
So I call myself as a development manager, a training consultant. I can't train people. I can only provide them the opportunities, I can only provide them the tools that are required, and they're the people who are going to pick and choose and see where they fit in. Now, the point here is that how do we do that? EMAS, as I said, emas-global.com is the website. We have certain language development programs, and as I said, IELTS also. We have facilitators, consultants who are internationally accredited, who have that certification, that exposure to communicate in an effective manner where people can actually understand where to do and what to do. When you talked about vocational training, now again, that's also a very, very vast term. As I said, this is language competency. So if I know as an individual, oh, this is how I'm going to express, it's not going to be difficult for me to write. It's not going to be difficult for me to market myself. So how do we deliver presentations? How do we deal with public? What are the real life contexts that we need to keep in mind while we are, developing ourselves? The point is self-reflection. Unless and until you understand that we as individuals are not perfect, and there is always a room for improvement, and we need to learn every day. Learning is a process, and till the day we die, we're all going to be learning.
Exactly. Thank you very much for being with us, Sadia. It was wonderful to have you over here in the studios as well, and that too all the way from Lahore. For people who are out there, ladies and gentlemen, if you're having trouble with any of these things which Ms. Sadia has actually mentioned, please make sure that you look online for EMAS as well, which is EMAS Global.
emas-global.com, and I really
global.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank
and
you
I
very
really
much
wish to thank you and Jamshed Sultan Saab for having me here. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, and we really want to promote such talented people as you as well. But ladies and gentlemen, very quickly before we wrap up,